today we're going to cover 8 questions to ask in your next meeting to start sounding and thinking like an executive. Hi, I'm Jamie, and I'm here to transform how you work. I'm the founder of Career Brilliance, where we help people boost their business savvy and cross more things off their to-do list so they can fast-track their path to professional leadership and enjoy their workday more. If that sounds good to you, be sure to like this video and hit subscribe. Okay, question 1 is, what is driving this particular deadline? Anytime that there is a hard deadline or a lot of urgency around a particular set of deliverables, it's important to discuss and also validate what is driving that. By asking this question and starting this discussion, it will give you more context about what is surrounding this particular topic in terms of what are the inputs and what are the outputs. Where is this request coming from? Was it directly from a high-powered executive? And that's what's driving the urgency. Is it needed for an important meeting next week? Okay, great. Having that information helps you come up with a better solution, and it makes people way more likely to actually honor the urgency when it is fully validated and understood by the broader team. The second question is, did that answer your question? I think this one might be my favorite one on the list. So you would ask this question when there's a scenario of someone else has asked a question and either you or somebody else answered that question, but for some reason, you're getting the sense that person's question was not fully answered. So this does a few things for you. One, it actually gets true clarity. Let's say that someone asked a question and they were not satisfied with the answer that was given. Asking this question reopens that conversation and allows them to truly get the clarity that they need, and as is the case with a lot of confusion or gaps in understanding, that probably means that person getting the answer spreads additional information for everybody else. The second reason why I love this question is it really allows the other person to feel seen and heard, like you're really paying attention to them and you really do care that they get the answer that they wanted and that they needed. And finally, asking this question shows a level of professional maturity. One, you are appropriately reading the room and you are identifying that someone is not getting what they needed. You are finding a way to get them the information that they needed. And in the same breath, you are demonstrating humility. Maybe you were the one who answered their question and it was not complete. So by asking this question, you are demonstrating that sometimes you don't always get it right, and that you are open to continuing a conversation with the intent of getting to the best solution, not necessarily that you look like the smartest person in the room. And that is very much an executive presence kind of thing, driving towards the right outcome and bringing people along rather than it being all about you and your ego and you having the right answer. Okay, moving on. Question 3. Who is not in this conversation yet, but should be? So this one really applies when you're at the beginning of maybe a new project or maybe a problem has just popped up and you are starting to pull people together to problem solve. Not everyone can be invited to every meeting, and that's really not the most effective way to run your meetings anyway. But there are times when it is worth taking a step back and looking at who is part of the conversation and who is missing. There are some people who are going to have experience or perspective that will be valuable to the conversation, especially when you are in that initial ambiguous situation. Okay, question 4. What have we already done that we can reuse? So again, executives tend to get pulled into a lot of decision-making conversations and problem-solving conversations. The ones who are working smarter and not harder know that they cannot spend a ton of time and energy to reinvent the wheel. And often, if they can use something that has been successful in the past, that will increase the quality of whatever solution or decision is made this time. Sometimes it's easy to get swept away with the newness of whatever today's topic is, but asking this question reminds people to consider what resources you already have and where you have success stories doing similar things in the past. Question 5 is a classic. This question is, how does this fit into the larger picture? This is a really good question to bring up when you feel like people are getting kind of stuck in the details or in the weeds of something, and you need to remind them to take a step back and think a little bit broader. Often by asking this question, it will prompt people to think in more of a systems level. By thinking about the bigger picture, they're thinking about what are the upstream and downstream effects to this particular topic. And it reminds them to think about what really matters. What are the most important components here that need to be considered the most? Question 6 is, how will we know when we're successful? Especially in discussions that are centered around starting something new or adding something, it's important to establish up front how you are going to measure what is considered success or not. A lot of times these can look like setting KPIs, key performance indicators, or maybe this is just an evaluation of where this fits into the foundational concept of increasing revenue, decreasing expenses, and pursuing your mission as a business. For a refresher on all of that, be sure to check out this video. All right, number 7, this one's such a gem. This question is, what are the risks and how are we mitigating them? So in order to get to the point where you are asking this question, you have to acknowledge that almost always nothing is going to go according to plan. There will always be things that go wrong. And the mark of a true leader and an effective professional is that they know how to work within those risks and those issues and come out on the other side with a solution that still meets the needs of the business. So by asking this question right up front, you are acknowledging that very likely something could go wrong. And also, we have an opportunity to identify what could go wrong to begin with, and then start creating plans for either preventing them from happening in the first place or reducing the impact that they have if they do happen. Okay, question 8. I think I said another one earlier was my favorite, but this truly is my favorite. And the question that I love asking the most. What information and or who do we need to make that decision? There are so many instances where a discussion will be happening and it all hinges around, oh, and we need this decision to be made. But it's a very passive thing. And there is just this blocker that exists out there of needing this decision to be made. We all agree that yes, this decision does need to be made, and it is valuable to identify that, but someone who has that executive mindset, who has the mindset of a leader, can take it even one step further and say, okay, what do we actually need in order to make that decision? Or who do we need to make that decision? What I have found in asking this question is a lot of times you actually do have what you need, or you have the person in the room who you need to make that decision. And so instead of this blocker existing with no action, you've now identified exactly what needs to happen in order to get to that decision and remove the blocker so that you can continue progressing. Okay, there you have it. 8 questions to bring to your next meeting to demonstrate that you are already thinking and sounding like an executive. If you liked these tips, be sure to check out my free on-demand masterclass, How to Write Emails That Actually Get Answered. The link for that is in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.